Lee Odden, welcome, and thanks a lot for your wonderful speech. Your concept evolves around how to be the best answer wherever customers are looking. It's like the baseline of your talk. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Sure. Basically, my talk was attract, engage, convert. How to be the best answer wherever customers are looking. And it's really centered around the idea of a very customer-centric approach to content marketing, understanding who your target audience is and their relationship with information as they look for answers to their problems. And it really, one area I focused on was the notion of how people discover content, their preferences for consumption, and what offers will motivate them to take action. And by understanding those insights about your target audience, then you can optimize your content marketing program.
You had an interesting take on what content actually means, because you asked 300,000 people in your network to give their opinion. Can you elaborate on their answers and the conclusions that you took from that?
Sure. I thought it was interesting, this notion of just what does content mean as a word or as a concept to people. And so I did tap our community on Google+, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and our blog community to ask them how they would define the word content. And the answers came clustered into three different groups. The first group was content was too ambiguous of a term to even define, so it means nothing. And the second group defined content as things that you make, like white papers and ebooks and websites and press releases, case studies, and so forth. The third group, though, I thought was particularly interesting in that they defined content as an experience or as an action. So thinking about content in terms of what it can achieve is really a much more productive way to think of content as a marketer, because you're not creating content just to make it. You're creating content to affect an outcome of some kind. So why not think of it in those terms?
Okay, great. One of the ways to have an outcome from content is to appeal to the emotional level, and you emphasize storytelling as a way to connect with people on that level. Storytelling is a buzzword we often hear, but could you give your take on how to, could you give your definition of storytelling and how do we go about of creating it?
Well, storytelling in the context of content marketing is really finding sort of the common ground between how it is that the brand wants to be known and the things that the customer cares about. What stories can we tell that bring those concepts together? And there's an expression that I stole from someone else. I don't remember who it was that said it many, many years ago. It was facts tell, stories sell. And you can use stories as a brand with content marketing as a way to communicate very complex, very hard to understand or difficult to understand ideas. But you can also use stories to connect with people, to inform them, but also to engage with them on an emotional level. If you only, especially in B2B, there's a tendency to push information out that's facts and benefits, features and benefits, facts and figures, that sort of thing. However, to gain a competitive advantage, you've really got to appeal to the human, sort of the human-to-human approach to marketing. And stories are in a very, very effective way at achieving that.
No one reads anymore, said one of your slides. Do you really believe that to be true? Because there is data that indicates that long posts, for example, are the ones that get the most shares. What is the state of written content? Does it have a future, or do you really believe that it is a finite thing?
There was a marketing manager that had made that comment, and I quoted him. And I think, of course, it would be a sweeping generalization for me or anyone to think that no one reads anymore and that they're only, it's called consumer ADD, attention deficit disorder. And it's this behavior that happens amongst very socially active on the web individuals who are constantly looking at their phone, looking at Facebook updates and tweeting and Instagramming and so on and so forth, that their attention spans are very brief and they're really only interested in short-form content, and they won't read anything in depth. So that behavior does exist. Does it characterize all of humanity or the business community? Of course not. Certainly long-form content has its place. Well-written, well-packaged long-form content, well, that's a competitive advantage. So I think you can tease people out with short form content, and I talked about that with modular content, into deeper topics, more in-depth topics, and I think they work together, sort of like a yin and yang. You can amplify the effect of each other by having them work together.
Great. Thanks for a great talk and for the time to answer some extra questions. Thanks a lot.
Super. Thank you.